And most everything we're doing today, it's just, there's things to copy. There's like one example, just one. But it'll be just trying to understand the functions here. So we start with the graph of the trig functions, just looking at the sine and the cosine. And you can see the shape. They've graphed these two by plotting points. And before I start that, let me just say that the way you think about coming up with the trig functions is it's like you take the number line with starting at x equals 0, and you attach it right here on the unit circle, and you wrap it around the circle this way, right? So the x-coordinates are going to be whatever the angle measure in radians are as you're going around the circle. So if you look at these, that's 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, 2 pi, right? The y-coordinates, well, for the sine, the y-coordinates will be the sine values. And for the cosine, the y-coordinates will be the cosine values. They did it by plotting all these unit circle angles, right? Pi 0, pi over 6, pi over 4. And, things like root 3 over 2, they turned it into a decimal, or root 2 over 2, turned it into a decimal. That's how they got these points. And they sketched the graph. Now, because it comes from the unit, the number line, which is infinite, and it's been wrapped around the unit circle, what happens to the values of sine, for example, after I've wrapped around one time and I'm back here at the same place, what am I going to get when I go around the circle again? The same values repeated. Right? So every time from 0 to 2 pi, I'm going to repeat the same y values that I've already used to graph. Right? So you can see they've highlighted this piece. That was going from 0 to 2 pi. And you can see it's kind of lighter here and it's lighter there. But the fact is, it goes on forever. And each one of these shapes, you call a cycle, it's actually called a period, right? It's the distance on the x-axis that it takes to go through one complete cycle. So it started at 0, it went to 1 at pi over 2, it was back at 0 at pi, it was at negative 1 at 3 pi over 2, and then it was back to 0 at 2 pi. And now if I go around the circle again, I get the same thing. So these are periodic functions. They repeat themselves. And in the case of sine and cosine, just sine x and cosine x, the length of the period is 2 pi. They both look like waves, right? And you'll hear, you could read, in an English book, in a novel, somebody referred to a sine wave. A sine wave just means it kind of looks like a wave. They kind of would expect that we all kind of know what we mean when we say a sine wave. I'll save for the next slide the next point. But